It's been a little over a year since Helldivers 2 came out, and I for one could not be happier with the game. As a guy who mostly plays Bethesda titles, where updates come at the mercy of Todd Howard and break all of the bug-fixing mods without fixing any of the bugs,
you can't keep getting away with it!
There's something truly refreshing, comforting, and even therapeutically healing about killing actual bugs in a game made by developers that love their game more than they love the money they can make from their game.
Time to relax.
Now, there's not anything wrong with making money.
Yeah, I like money though.
But when it becomes the sole focus of a gaming enterprise, as it has been for years in the AAA gaming industry, the long-term benefits that come from making a great game, like building trust with your customer base, forming a great community, and making great art, can easily be sacrificed for the sake of short-term monetary gains.
What the hell happened here?
Prioritizing making money as a game developer, instead of prioritizing making the best game possible, often leads to scummy business practices that everyone hates, like expensive content hitting the in-game store for a limited amount of time leading to FOMO-based purchases, or the games being filled with branded pop culture slop and ridiculous unrealism, destroying their own identity. Arrowhead Studios, the company behind Helldivers 2, has actively refused to take the route of the self-sabotaging AAA gaming industry. Since HD2 came out, the game has remained at a low price by industry standards. There's only been one limited in-store event with plans to bring the items back later. There have been constant updates with fresh, balanced content. The self-contained and unique feel of the game's universe has remained intact. And finally, since day one, it has been incredibly easy to farm Supercredits, the in-game currency used to buy new armors, helmets, and weapons from the Superstore. Seriously, if you want to get enough Supercredits to buy any of the War Bonds or Superstore items in a matter of hours, all you have to do is go to a planet with a good biome for minor points of interest, and look for high-level players playing missions on the lowest difficulty. Join their game and spend minutes gathering all the Supercredits on easy missions before backing out and repeating the process. The game has worked like this for more than a year because the developers are more concerned about causing anger in the community by changing the system than they are about making real money off of Supercredit purchases in their in-game store. In other words, they're more focused on building trust and making the game fun than they are about short-term gains. If EA took ownership of HD2 tomorrow morning, Supercredit farming on easy missions would be patched out by lunchtime. And the overall Supercredit spawn rate would probably be cut down to 1/8 of what it currently is by the end of the day.
And it's gone.
While Arrowhead does have plans to change how Supercredit spawns work, their focus will be on making playing at higher difficulties more rewarding, not reducing the amount of Supercredits players can find overall.
Yoink.
This means rebalancing the game so that players get more Supercredits on Super Helldive difficulty than they do on Trivial, which makes sense. As someone who has Supercredit farmed a lot, I can tell you that this would be a good change to make. Super Helldive is very fun to play, and it should be more rewarding to the player. Speaking of Super Helldive difficulty, Helldivers 2 is a finely tuned and well-balanced game.
Is this a joke?
No, ma'am. I legitimately believe that.
The community is almost always complaining about and searching for the meta dive loadout, but the truth is that many weapons and stratagems are really, really good, rewarding skilled play. The weapons and stratagems that aren't meta either excel in niche situations or just straight up demand a higher skill level than other items, which makes them even more fun to use. There are tons of stratagems, primary weapons, secondary weapons, grenades, and armor types to mix and match as a player, creating a level of customization in your loadout that allows for really interesting and fun gameplay. This diversity gives you the ability to mix up your playstyle from mission to mission, keeping the game fresh. Furthermore, the huge level of customization allows you to design different builds for different mission types or different enemies. For example, when fighting the squids on Super Helldive, I've been using the R63 CS Diligence Counter Sniper primary, the GP31 Ultimatum Grenade Pistol secondary, and the G50 Seeker grenades with Democracy Protects as my armor. Then, for the stratagems, I take the Orbital Fire Barrage, Orbital Laser, Stalwart Machine Gun, and Portable Hell Bomb, because my entire gameplay strategy is focused on gaining as many kills as possible. Right off the drop, I try to alert the nearest watcher to my presence and gun him down immediately after he calls in enemy dropships. Then I throw an orbital fire barrage directly on the touchdown spot of the dropships and move on, watching the kills rack up from afar. I use the orbital laser to take out heavy bases or clear out objectives before moving in, and the stalwart to mow down every patrol I see and take care of the overseers. I don't need to bring any sentries, I am the sentry. To everyone currently commenting about how bad the stalwart is, I know the heavy machine gun does more damage and can take down the harvesters, but I like the stalwart for its mobility and ease of use.
This is brilliant, but I like this.
Just throw that thing into 1150 rounds per minute and it rips hordes to shreds. Plus, I have the counter sniper to deal with faraway harvesters and the ultimatum to deal with nearby harvesters. And I use the secret grenades to clean up any annoying flying overseers. Finally, if the enemy gets overwhelming, I have the nuclear option. I hit the button on my portable hell bomb, lie down, try not to cry, and pray for the best. With the Democracy Protects bonus on my armor, there's a 50% chance of living through the blast that deletes everyone and everything around me.
I like those odds.
I know I could just drop the hell bomb and run away, but honestly, it's a lot more fun to roll the dice. I have a gambling problem. If I want to run a more tactical, precise strike build, maybe more focused on gathering samples or quickly completing objectives than getting an absurd amount of kills, I'll use the explosive crossbow for blowing up enemy ships and electricity traps, the bushwhacker triple barrel shotgun for emancipating the voteless,
Prepare to be emancipated from your own inferior genes.
and impact grenades for crowd clearing. Then I'll take a couple sentries, the jetpack, and the anti-material rifle for my stratagems. Gameplay-wise, I'll use the sentries to harry and distract enemy patrols while I jetpack from one point of interest to another, completing objectives and gathering samples.
Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy.
The anti-material rifle is perfect for taking out harvesters at range, or one-shotting enemy overseers, because they all happen to be made out of material. Oh, and I use the FS-38 Eradicator armor with the fortified bonus, not because the bonus really benefits this build, but simply because it looks cool and matches nicely with the cape and helmet I'd imagine an elite super soldier sniper would wear 200 years in the future. That's another aspect of Helldivers 2 that I love. The fun gameplay, diversity of playstyles, and incredible development team, that stuff's all great, but I truly play this game for the fashion. There are so many armors, helmets, and capes that I've booted up the game before just to find different combinations that look cool before logging off and going to bed. It's called fashion, sweetie. Look it up. Another benefit of the development team not letting the armory get filled with idiotic, out-of-theme slop is that many armor sets and helmets match with each other because the developers stick to the same color palettes when making these items. You're not going to find neon pinks and greens or Mountain Dew skins, thank God. You have the iconic black and yellow Helldivers theme, or armors with more earthy tones for camouflage, or more specialized armor colors like white and medical green for combat medics, dark orange for the engineer corps, and whites, grays, and blues for snowtroopers. And as I mentioned before, Supercredit farming is incredibly easy, incredibly profitable, and happening all the time. So you're not going to have any problems grabbing the skins you want. As a completionist, I have been obsessed with acquiring all of the skins and finding the coolest combinations, and I love it. There's so many cool armor options that it puts Fallout 4's literal trash armor sets to shame. And don't even get me started about Starfield.
Actually, it's gonna bug me if I don't.
Helldivers 2 has been out for just over a year, and there's already more cool armor sets than there are unique spacesuits in the game that Bethesda allegedly spent 25 years developing. Finally, let's talk about one of the most discussed and possibly least understood aspects of Helldivers 2. It concerns everybody's favorite subject, politics.
As my first order of business, I hereby declare martial law.
You have to take out their families.
Helldivers 2 is apolitical, in terms of modern politics. When it first hit the gaming scene way back in 2024,
No, I would just do cocaine. That was really,
That's down and dirty, right?
I don't know if you remember, but it was an entirely different world back then, and there was a very loud minority in the driver's seat of most game studios.
I think we all know who we're talking about.
When a great game came out that didn't include overtly homosexual characters or capes with the pride flag on them, certain people who, let's be honest, have a bit of a penchant for drama, got very upset.
Homophobe. It's a homophobe right here. Homophobe alert!
But the developers remained steadfast. Contemporary politics do not belong in HD2. That's right, folks. No gays allowed on the front lines.
General, the military has been easing restrictions on enlistment in almost every area. Why not gays?
Gay people are different, Brandon. Under no circumstances can we put America's homosexuals in danger.
But, as many have pointed out, the satirical setting of Super Earth's managed democracy is inherently political. I mean, it's inherent in the term managed democracy.
Reminder, all personnel must submit weekly urine sample by 0400.
Oh no!
As an American, it's impossible to look at the Super Earth war machine and not be reminded of our own MIC, and the ways in which our republic has also been turned into a managed democracy.
And a new study proves 100% of Super Earth studies to be accurate.
My favorite thing that I've ever heard another YouTuber call stratagems in this game is Lockheed Martin Pokeballs, which is hilarious. Plus, reading up on the lore from Helldivers 1 shows that Super Earth's government is quite certainly a major aggressor in this universe, kind of like another propagandistic aggressive superpower.
Rock, flag, and eagle!
However, on the other hand, anyone who sympathizes with this, or this over humanity itself fails the heat map allegiance test and ought to be jettisoned from his super destroyer into the cold, empty freeze of space. Helldivers 2 poses a political philosophy question.
What doth life?
Should you fight for your family, your country, your species, knowing that you are on the violent and corrupt side, or at least the side that started the conflict? How deep should your loyalty go? In my opinion, it's an interesting question in the modern world, but it's an easy one to answer in the universe of the game. Total Xeno death. And everyone who wanted pride flag capes in the game should be thanking Arrowhead Studios for not implementing that idea.
That idea is just the worst.
Do you really want your cultural movement to be associated with top-down imposition from a genocidal, corrupt oligarchy of human rights abusers? Forgive me, but isn't that just a little too on the nose? The political satire in Helldivers 2 is very well done. It asks a good question, but doesn't force a specific answer. It is on theme and provides the entire setting for the universe, while allowing the community to engage in a ridiculous level of role-playing. It's guaranteed I'm going to have comments under this video calling me a traitor to democracy for spreading falsehoods that have been condemned by Super Earth's Ministry of Truth. And that's fantastic.
Dear God, it's beautiful.
Compare HD2's political commentary with 2022's Saints Row. This game said everything that leftists believe in the most cringe, how do you do fellow kids way.
I've told you before, the idols are trying to build a post-capitalist society where money is not a concept.
Because of that, it comes off completely disingenuously and makes a mockery of left-wing beliefs. You can tell that these decisions were made by a development board looking to make a popular game, to make money, not make a good game that says anything of substance.
I don't have to love it, I have to pay my student loans. Amen.
If I was a left-winger, I would be pissed at the use of my political ideology to shill corporate products. But it looks like that's done with anyways. In conclusion, Helldivers 2 is a game that gives you more the more you put into it. Because, and I know this sounds corny, it was made with love.
Once upon a time.
If you put a lot of time into Fallout 4, you realize how many bugs there are, how many problems, how many mistakes. You might still come away loving the game, and believe me, I do.
Oh my goodness!
But it's still clear that the dev team didn't put their heart and soul into it. The more you put into Helldivers 2, learning about the enemies, their weak points, and the synergies between different weapons, stratagems, and armors, the more creativity you can implement in your character build. For example, up until the latest update, the inflammable passive ability was one of the worst that an armor could have.
This sucks, man.
But then the developers added a high damage laser weapon that sets the user on fire if it's continually discharged too long. And now tons of divers are using inflammable armor and turning themselves into flaming laser turrets.
Takes a lot of bravery to be that vulnerable, and I'm so proud of this community.
Another small anecdote that shows how much Arrowhead Studios loves its game has to be the story behind the Raising the Flag Easter egg. Though the change wasn't in any patch notes, divers noticed that saluting the flag would make it raise faster. Then a developer confirmed that he added this change as an Easter egg, because when the development team tested these levels, they would all salute the flag of Super Earth between waves of enemies. They're just that into their own game. And that's the lesson the gaming industry and everyone can take from Helldivers 2. If you're passionate about what you do, if you love the product you make, and if you're consistent, the success will come. But if you just go chasing the money, then you're not different, and you'll never stand out.
That's why no one will remember your name.
Except maybe to be remembered for how much you fumbled the bag. God, how bad was Starfield?